You feel it. That weight, not of sadness, but of stillness. A strange inertia in your soul. You look at your life, the routines, the relationships, the unchanging view from your own eyes, and you whisper to yourself, is this all there is? The world tells you to move, to hustle, to break free. But a deeper, quieter voice tells you to wait, to listen. Today, we don't run from this feeling. We descend into it. Because according to the depth psychology of Carl Jung, within this sacred stagnation lies the blueprint for your becoming. Carl Jung saw the human psyche not as a machine to be fixed, but as a living, breathing ecosystem, a deep forest. And in any forest, there are seasons. There's the vibrant explosion of spring, the full bloom of summer, the release of autumn, and the deep, silent hibernation of winter. What we call feeling stuck, he might call a psychological winter. A necessary, sacred contraction. The ego, our conscious self, screams in protest. It wants light, growth, action. But the self, the total, complete being you are meant to become, is orchestrating a deeper work. It is calling you inward because something within you is preparing to be born. And all birth requires a period of gestation in the dark. The first step is not to break the door down. It is to ask who locked it. When you feel stuck, you are often in a silent standoff with a part of yourself you've refused to see. Jung called this the shadow. It is the repository of everything you deem unacceptable, your latent anger, your quiet needs, your unexpressed creativity, your raw power that you've buried for being too much. Stagnation is the shadow's polite, then increasingly impatient, knock on the door of your awareness. Imagine a man, let's call him David, a successful lawyer, logical, composed. He wakes one morning with a profound apathy he cannot explain. His work feels like empty theater. He tries to positive think his way out, but it only deepens the hollow feeling. One day, stuck in traffic, a piece of music comes on the radio, a wild, untamed symphony he hasn't heard since he was 18, when he dreamed of being a composer. And he weeps, not softly, he sobs. That music was a fragment of his shadow, the artistic, passionate, irrational soul he buried to build a respectable life. His stagnation was not a malfunction. It was a mutiny led by the exiled parts of his own soul, demanding to be heard. So, step one is not an action. It is a question, a sacred inquiry. Ask yourself, what part of me have I had to silence in order to live this life? Don't answer immediately. Let the silence speak. The anger you swallow, the dream you laugh off, the sensitivity you numb. That is the territory we must explore. Once you acknowledge the knock, you must learn the language of the depths. The psyche speaks in symbols, in dreams, in sudden waves of emotion that seem to come from nowhere. Jung discovered archetypes, the ancient, universal patterns of human experience that live in our collective unconscious. The hero, the sage, the caregiver, the explorer. When you're stuck, an archetype vital to your journey may be calling for activation, and you're not listening. But the most poignant voice is often that of the inner child. Not a metaphor for mere nostalgia, but the living psychic embodiment of your earliest wounds and your deepest wonders. Your apathy may be the inner child's exhaustion from performing for love. Your feeling of emptiness may be its hunger for genuine play, for creativity without a purpose. Consider Maya, a dedicated mother who feels a vague but constant melancholy. She's not depressed, she's disconnected. One afternoon, cleaning the attic, she finds her old box of watercolor paints. Hesitantly, she opens them. The smell alone transports her. She sits on the floor, and for the first time in decades, she makes a mess. She paints without a goal, and as the colors swirl, she remembers a specific afternoon when she was 7, painting a picture for her busy father, who glanced at it and said, "Nice, but what is it supposed to be?" In that attic, Maya doesn't just paint. She grieves, and then she reclaims. That act of pointless creation was a dialogue with her inner child. It was step 2, what did I once know how to do that my soul has forgotten? The final step is the most counterintuitive. The ego's impulse is to erupt, to shatter the feeling. But the psyche's wisdom is to contain. Jung called this the transcendent function, the psyche's innate ability to hold tension between opposites, stagnation and growth, shadow and light, until a third, new thing emerges. This is the alchemy. Your feeling of being stuck is the container. The crucible, think of it as a cocoon. The caterpillar doesn't do anything in there. It doesn't strive. It dissolves into a kind of psychic soup, a breakdown of its old form. To the outside world, it is inert, stuck. But inside, a genetic blueprint is active, orchestrating a reorganization so radical it becomes something entirely new. To interrupt this process is to tear a wing from a butterfly. So, step 3 is the practice of sacred patience. It is to say to yourself, if this feeling is not my enemy, but my cocoon, how can I honor it? Perhaps it means allowing yourself to be unproductive, to journal without judgment, to walk without a destination, to simply sit with the emptiness and listen, as you would to a friend in pain, without immediately handing them a solution. You are not doing nothing. You are in the active process of being reconfigured. I know the weight you carry, that feeling that you are a ghost in your own life, watching yourself go through the motions. I know the fear that whispers, this is it. You have peaked. The magic is gone. That is the voice of the ego, terrified of its own dissolution. But hear the quieter, older voice beneath it, the voice of the self. It says, your roots are growing deeper in the dark so your branches can reach a higher sun. This emptiness is not a void. It is a vessel waiting to be filled with a meaning you have not yet conceived. Your fatigue is the fatigue of an old skin that has become too tight for the soul growing within it. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are in the liminal space, the sacred threshold between who you were and who you are becoming. And in this space, all the old maps dissolve. You are left only with the compass of your own deepest truth. That disorientation, it is a sign you are leaving a familiar but confined country. So here is the twist, the final revelation. What if the purpose of your life is not to avoid this feeling, but to be initiated by it over and over again? Each period of stuckness is not a glitch in the system. It is the system. It is your psyche's ancient, intelligent way of forcing you to release a version of yourself that has served its purpose, but is now too small to contain the grandeur of your own spirit. The labyrinth you feel trapped within has no outer wall. The only thing you are truly stuck to is the illusion of the person you think you're supposed to be. And in this sacred pause, that illusion is crumbling, not to leave you empty, but to make room for the authentic, unfathomable being that you are. If you're watching this, feeling this tension within you, you're not lost. You're a seeker. You're someone for whom the surface of life is no longer enough. You're being called into your own depths. And that call, as terrifying as it feels, is the surest sign of a soul that is alive and ready to become whole. You are ready now,